y'all have seen me on here playing with worms and seeing them eat the compost and everything. But you may be wondering, how do I even make one of these bins? Well, welcome to this episode. You are going to learn how to make a worm bin. Hi, I'm Compost Fairy. Welcome to my channel. Alright, so before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to just say welcome to any new subscribers. I'm so happy you are here. And then welcome back to my OGs. I'm so happy y'all are here rocking with me. I can't wait to grow, explore, and do the damn thing with you. Okay, so today we will be making a worm bin. And really, this is a DIY worm bin. You can buy like different worm bins yourself, but I just kind of wanted to show you all how you can make one from very everyday materials. And a lot of it you may have, and stuff you may have to buy will be very minimal if you have to buy anything at all. A little bit into it, if some folks don't know, and feel free to skip this part if you already know. Vermicomposting is when you employ the use of worms to eat your food scraps and brown material. They eat it, poop it out, and the castings, their worm shit, essentially, is really good for plants, overall wellness of a garden, and it's wonderful. Lots of people covet this stuff. And so when you can make it yourself, it really is nice because your plants do get a boost from it. So let's get into it. I'm going to sit here and pause to mention that the worms that I use, oh my gosh, so important, are red wigglers. You can also use like red tiger worms or European night crawlers, but I find red wigglers are kind of more the common one. You don't want to go and grab the earthworms from outside because they're used to a much more freer environment, I guess you could say. They're kind of used to like burying deep into the ground, whereas with the red wigglers, they kind of are a little bit more surface level, so that's why it's okay to have them in the bin. So stick with like red wigglers, the European night crawlers, or the red tiger worm. And use my code CompostFairy10 at KeystoneFarmsOK.com to get 10% off your first order of worms and worm castings. The code is on the screen, and it will also be in the subject bio, whatever the fuck it is down there. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 bins. 2 of them are ones that I think you should replicate. One of them, the one that I'll actually be putting the stuff in today, you can replicate it if you want, but I'll tell you once you see it, I'll tell you why you may not want to replicate it. But I'm using single layer bins, and you can do double layer if you want to collect compost tea. I prefer to do single layer. And so I drill holes into the sides of the bins, like all around the sides of the bins, and they're about 1/8 of an inch big. Let me show you. So this is what I mean by like drilling holes on the side of your bin. You're going to want to drill holes because the worms, they need to be able to breathe. Just like we need air to breathe, they need air. But you don't want them too big. Here's another bin, and actually I keep the top off some of my bins sometimes. Shout out to Deep Roots Worm for that tip. And so that really helps me in terms of airflow as well. And the holes on this one and the other one are 1/8 inch big. So airflow is really important because 1, we want to make sure that the worms have enough like breathing space, but 2, this is still an aerobic process, and so aerobic microbes are in there breaking shit down as well. So we want to make sure we have a good amount of airflow. The holes in this bin are too fucking big. Don't make your holes this big. This was the first bin I ever made, and I just mistakenly made them too big. I covered them up with mesh so no worms fall out. But yeah, don't make your holes this big. Make them as big as the ones that I just showed you, not as big as these. I have this mesh that I can put at the bottom so that nothing falls out. But yeah, this is the bin I'll be using today. So let's go ahead and get started with our bedding. You may be wondering, what is bedding? Well, bedding is kind of like the material that your worms live in. It's your brown material, so you need to have an atom of browns to your bin. Just like in our regular compost, we want browns. When we have a vermicompost bin, we want browns. And so we want to have browns in there that they can eat on. But we want them to be kind of moist too, because worms need a moist environment. And so we're going to wet these browns and then add them, not soppy wet, but just add them, squeeze them out and add them to the bin. So let me show you. Okay, so for my browns, or my bedding, I should say, the bedding that the worms will live in, and I should say they'll also eat it too. So that's the thing about these worm bins, they eat the bedding, like all the brown material and your food scraps, so it's lit. So I have some shredded newspaper /paper I'm going to put in there, some shredded egg carton, leaves, and then some compost that I'm going to add in there as like an inoculant to kind of get the microbes up in there. And then my worms are in this bin. So your bedding, I'm going to put on the screen some other examples of bedding that you can have. But there's a lot of different bedding options, so don't feel like you're stuck to what I have here. You can use other stuff too. I'm going to grab some of my newspaper. I'm going to put it in this bucket of water I have. And I'm going to just moisten it, wring it out so it's not sopping, and then I'm just going to kind of sprinkle it on the bottom. Alrighty, so here's my first layer of my bedding. The netting is underneath, as you can see right there. And then, yeah, we have a good, probably like an inch or so layer of this paper. So next I'm going to add these egg carton cardboard. Alrighty, went ahead and added in the egg cartons. And so there they go. And then next, I'm going to add in my compost. And I'm just, if you don't have compost, that's okay. I just like to add compost to kind of get the microbes going. And it really just adds some good organic matter to the bin as well. And the worms, they love it. So already, I'm going to do another layer of the paper and the egg cartons. So I have food that they can eat, and since they've already been used to the bin and stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and feed them. But if you are making a bin new, make sure that you kind of just put a little bit of food scraps in there and see how long it takes them to eat it, and then add more gradually so you can kind of see how much food you should be adding, because that's one thing, you don't want to overfeed them. You don't want to feed them more than they can handle, because that's when food can get muddy, the bin can get anaerobic, things like that. It just won't be a good bin. So make sure that you are feeding them little by little at first until you kind of notice how much they're eating, and then you can increase the amount that you're giving them. Alrighty, my worms are in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just dump this whole bucket into here. Ooh, wow, there's a lot. Oh wow, I may have overestimated how much space I had in the bin, y'all. Can you see the worms? Yes, there's a lot of there's a lot of worms, y'all. They are in here. They're gonna start traveling down to the bottom, and they will start eating shit up. So, ooh, I forgot that they had already had some pumpkin in there, and they are tearing that shit up. So I'm very excited. But yeah, y'all, last step is to put some type of brown on top. I have these dry leaves that I'm just going to kind of shake on top. I'm going to have a nice dry layer on top because we don't want gnats or fruit flies or anything to accumulate. And we also want to kind of cover up the food scraps so odors stay down too. You can have leaves, cardboard, any type of nice thick brown layer, a nice piece of cloth that can break down works too. Okay, so I want to go over some worm bin best practices. One thing is, do not overfeed them. If you give them too much food, then it's going to cause moldy food to develop because they haven't eaten it yet. And then it's also going to make the bin a little bit more anaerobic because it's just going to be like rotten, smelly food in there that has not been well, like, manipulated, I guess. So you don't overfeed them. Just give them it's better to give them a little, because the thing is, they can always eat the bedding. The bedding is very edible for them, so they can always eat that. So you don't have to worry about them being starved or anything like that. So please don't overfeed them. Feed them little by little at first, see how much they're eating, kind of gauge, okay, I can feed them this much next time. And yeah, so I like to go with the rule of don't add any more food until you see that they've eaten the food that you had previously. Okay, and so then another thing would be to aerate your bin, so that's kind of turning it. So like in a week or so, when everything's kind of settled down, I can go in there and kind of turn it. When I aerate it, because again, they need that air to be able to breathe. They have the natural air pockets, like with the browns in there, and then also with holes in the bin, but they're gonna need, like, you know, some extra boost. So kind of turning it and mixing everything up, it's gonna be really good for the worms and for the microbes. Another thing is just make sure it stays moist. Since we moisten the bedding, I find that it stays moist throughout the whole thing, and I never have to spray water. But if it does get a little dry, spritz a little bit of water or freeze something and put it on top and let that melt, and then it'll be gone. I learned that from Compostable Kate. Shout out to her. So the fourth one would be that every time you add your food scraps, always add some carbon. That's one thing that I learned a little bit more recently, how important that is, just because that maintains the balance in the bin. So if you add food scraps, throw in some shredded paper or some leaves or some sawdust, things like that. So just throw a little bit of that in there and mix it up so that you have a good balance. So yeah. Whew. Let me know if y'all need like a list of what worms can and can't eat. And also let me know if you want to see more videos like this. I hope this was helpful. You can have your worm bin can be any size or anything. You know, that just happened to be the one I had, but I know people have put them in 5-gallon containers. I know people have put them in 60-gallon rain barrels. So it's a really scalable thing that like most people can do. Thanks y'all so much for rocking with me. If you stay to the end, you a real one. I just enjoy making these videos, and I hope that this was helpful. Please know that you can compost. Vermicompost is great for anyone, and it is something that will really kind of like show you how you can like really divert your waste and not have so much trash. So definitely try it out. If you have any questions, please put them down below. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It really does help me out, and I surely do appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Can't wait to grow, explore, and do the damn thing with you next time. Have a good one. Bye.